In this video, I'm going to help you with confined space hazards and how you use these on your NEBOSH NG2 project or the NEBOSH IG2 project, whether you're an NGC or an IGC student. So we are going to try to fill in this box here. I'm going to show you an example of a confined space hazard, and then I'm going to refer you to the various legislation which you can use when coming up with control measures and also for making your legal arguments, because you may have to make a legal argument in this box down here. So the first big mistake to avoid with this is forgetting what a confined space is. Now, a confined space is not just a small space. A lot of people in their hazards talk about how it's enclosed and it's cramped and there's not a lot of room, and I don't care. I don't care how cramped it is. I don't care how there's no room.
Oh, there's poor access and egress out of the aircraft wing.
I don't care. It's not a confined space. How do we define confined space? Because it's all down to what does the word mean in the health and safety industry. Now, we talked about this in the tutorials. We talked about this in your course materials. Here we have the Confined Space Regulations 1997, and this is the definition that NEBOSH used. So even for the international students, this definition applies to you, because as far as NEBOSH is concerned, it is something which is enclosed. Yes, it's substantially enclosed and it has a specified risk. It means that in there's a risk of fire and explosion. So you've got a flammable atmosphere. There's a risk of loss of consciousness due to increase in body temperature. We've got loss of consciousness or asphyxiation from gases, fumes, vapors, or lack of oxygen. Got drowning due to an increase in the level of liquid, and asphyxiation due to being smothered from a free-flowing solid, or the inability to reach a respirable environment due to entrapment by a free-flowing solid. Anyway, basically it's really dangerous situations. Just cramped and small and no space and you can't get in or can't get out, not a confined space. Not interested. Keep that off my NG2 project, please. So when it comes to writing out your hazard, first of all, we put the hazard category, which is confined spaces, and let's always check, look, confined spaces, that's the hazard category we're going to use there. We are going to try to describe our hazard in those kinds of terms, talking about I'm in an enclosed space and there's high temperature, risk of losing consciousness. I'm in an enclosed space, there's a flammable atmosphere. We're going to try to talk about it in those kinds of terms. So we could say access required into the bakery oven when it is still very hot. Okay, that's a pretty good confined space. We could say something else. We could say maintenance inside acetone tanks, enclosed space with flammable vapors. There we are. That's another confined space. Then in our who might be harmed and how, obviously we're going to talk about the incident. So here the incident is an ignition of the vapors causing a fire, maybe an explosion, causing serious burns, pulverization, destruction, death, fatality, mayhem, destruction, of course. So in the who might be harmed and how, get a who, get an incident, get an injury in there. Chances are it's going to be a fatality. Like confined spaces, I mean death is like, they're all fatal, these types of situations, all potentially fatal. Then in terms of the control measures, well, I would refer you back to your course materials, which detail loads of different control measures depending on what the hazard is. So you might have flammable gas monitoring, oxygen monitoring, rescue procedures, ventilation of flammable atmospheres, loads of different measures depending on what it is. But what is the legislation you should use? Well, NEBOSH National General Certificate students, so UK students, you will go to, obviously, the Confined Space Regulations. These are not big or complicated regulations. You can see they're very, very small, very short. And we have here some duties. So we've got some duties there for the employer. That doesn't really give us a whole lot at all. So let's look at this one, working confined spaces. It goes into a little bit more detail there about avoiding entry and also entering with a safe system of work, with a system of work that renders the work safe. So two main duties for you to refer to there when you are writing your specific legal arguments in this box. So if you have a confined space action here, you can use those duties to justify your action. Now, if you are an international student doing the IGC, the International General Certificate, then, well, what can you use? Well, you've got a variety of different things. One of my go-to ILO codes of practice is the Safety and Health and Use of Machinery. And I'll just do a quick search and just type in confined. That's usually the fastest way of doing things. Bang, there we go. In this maintenance section, it talks about having a procedure to enter the confined space. Now here it talks about permit to work, lock-off procedures, lockout, tag-out. So if your action is in relation to a safe system of work, lockout, tag-out, permit to work, if it's in relation to even like gas testing, gas monitoring, oxygen monitoring, you could say that's a system, isn't it? That's a procedure for working in the confined space. So you could use that. Let's carry on our search. There's another one down here. Same section actually, same one. There's the second one there. When tanks or confined spaces are serviced, inspected or cleaned, measures have been taken to control the danger caused by lack of oxygen, toxic gases, or other hazardous substances, and that appropriate emergency procedures are in place. So again, another duty which you could use if entering a tank or other similar space. If you work specifically in construction, the ILO Code of Practice for Construction is also useful. There's a whole section on it here, about 2 pages worth by the looks of it. So let's have a look at that. Page 93, ooh, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff there. All very specific, all very useful for you to use. So there we are, that's a quick summary on how we use a confined space on our practical project. And well, if you've got any questions, just get in touch. I'll see you in the next one.